¿Ustedes quieren saber puede ser el precio máximo de XRP? ¿Ustedes quieren saber cuál es toda la estrategia detrás del blockchain y la implementación a nivel global? Pues sí, señores, les traigo una información clave. Les traigo a uno de los expertos en el desarrollo de blockchain, de desarrollo de portafolios diversificados en cripto, en acciones también, lo sabe mucho y tiene muchísima experiencia. Es una de las personas que más saben en el universo cripto y que apoya realmente a XRP a la par que a XLM. Se llama Vandell y me parece que vale la pena oír esta entrevista hasta el final, no perderse ni un solo minuto porque creo que es de las mejores entrevistas que he tenido en el canal. Así sea en inglés, les dejo los subtítulos en español y si tenemos la oportunidad de que ahora YouTube nos lo ponga en traducido automáticamente en español, pues sería una maravilla. Nos vemos, espero que esta información sirva. Acá les dejo la entrevista. Hola, muy buenos días o muy buenas tardes donde estén alrededor del mundo. Hoy les tengo un invitado súper especial. I have a new invite here in my channel, a new guy, un señor que es un berraco, un duro del mundo de las criptomonedas, sabe mucho de lo que habla, sabe mucho del manejo de los portafolios de las criptomonedas y estamos con Vandell. Hi Vandell, how are you? This is a welcome in Spanish, English, everything is a mix. I wanted to just to give you like a brief introduction to you about you in Spanish. So you're welcome to my channel. I'm really happy to having you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me on your channel, Bernie. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy to speak with you and get into the conversation. We have a lot to uncover. So, again, happy to be here. Thank you.
So what we're seeing is there's a new evolution around crypto since the new president or the new government in the U.S. changed all the regulation. We don't want to talk a lot about politics, about who's right or who's wrong, but everything that is happening is a new regulation, a new agency views in the SEC and everything that is evolving in Saudi Arabia and UA and Abu Dhabi. What can you tell us about that? I don't know if I should introduce more about you, or you tell us before that question. What do you do? Who are you? Like a elevator pitch.
Yeah, sure. My name is Vandell Al Jarrah. I'm the co founder of a consulting firm, Black Swan Capitalist. We have a YouTube channel. I work closely with my brother, who's the founder of Black Swan Capitalist. We do one on one coaching and consulting, one on one video calls regarding understanding digital assets, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and macro crypto analysis through the lens of liquidity flows. We analyze and assess market cycles. We use business cycles and pay attention to monetary policy. And we offer one on one coaching, as I said earlier. We do corporate consulting as well as individual one on one consulting. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We are virtual. So we pretty much operate from virtual offices from our home. And that's pretty much what we do for the public. Um,
Here comes my kid,
Adorable.
Papi.
I love it.
And
Um,
he loves to shout every time that I'm live. So sometimes he will come here. So it's
Eventually,
normal.
he's going to be doing this with you at some
I
point,
hope
hopefully.
sometime. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. With that being said, my background, finance and accounting. Then I went to business administration. Then jumped into banking as a banker at International Bank of Commerce. Then went to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and then transitioned as an executive assistant to a high-profile individual with an energy and gas company. And then we started Black Swan Capitalist in 2020. But that's pretty much it. Yes.
What I've been following you in YouTube, I invite everyone to go to watch Vandell's and Versan's video YouTube. What I've been watching is that you talk a lot about XRP. I love it because obviously I'm a fan of XRP. I'm like an XRP army. I don't know if I can call myself like that. But why did you selected XRP to be one of the top, I don't know, followers or things that you are watching inside crypto?
Yes. So naturally, my brother and I were always looking to invest and position ourselves in the next big thing. Okay. We missed the internet We missed the dot-com era, which was in the early 90s into 2000s.
Yeah.
We were of course very young at the time, so we didn't have the opportunity to participate in that. Um, However, though, in recent years, at least in the past 6 years, we've been looking for alternative investments to get ahead of currency debasement. And we've
Okay.
always been looking, but we came across this in 2019 to be more specific, but we didn't start speaking about it publicly until 2021. Um, but the fact is, we came across XRP, heard about it. We heard about Bitcoin, a few others, and it's pretty much in our nature to do deep research and due diligence on anything we put our money in or anything we decide to um, invest in. So essentially, we have very strict criteria that we look for. Um, the same principles we used for investing in traditional markets, primarily individual stocks and equities and companies, we use the same principles, just with um, a customization to it. But we use the same principles and philosophy with
Okay.
digital assets and cryptocurrencies. So we have a very strict criteria we look for. Each item has to check off the list. Now, with stocks, you have P ratios, you have earnings, strong cash flow, balance sheets. With cryptocurrency and digital assets, you don't have any of that. You have use case, utility. So the valuation models are very different. And what we had to do is pretty much create our own to some extent and kind of think outside the box of how can we assess the long-term growth potential of these assets. So our investment thesis was very simple. Our investment thesis is focused on investing in disruptive digital assets and blockchain technologies that have long-term growth potential, but at the same time are undervalued in relation to their trend. Undervalued. So that means identifying opportunity when the masses are looking somewhere else. And that's where the wealth is made. So XRP was one of a few that actually checked the criteria off our list. So what do we look for? Since it's not stocks, we're talking about utility. It's a beast of its own. So how do you measure that? Well, there's many different factors, but one thing we looked at is the solution they have created. How superior is their solution to the problem they're tackling? And how big is the problem they are tackling? Is it in the millions of dollars issue? Is it $1 billion issue? Or is it a multi-trillion dollar issue? In our opinion, based on our analysis and investigation over the years and deep research, we've come to the conclusion that XRP is tackling a global multi-trillion dollar, actually quadrillion dollar financial issue in the world. And it's an institutional and banking issue. It's basically the inefficient systems and rails in place of moving money. They said, how can we tackle this issue and streamline it? And the way to do that is with their solution, their product is the XRP ledger, which is their blockchain network, and the XRP token, which is the digital asset. Ripple is the company. That's completely a separate entity, separate thing from the token. So when you buy a token, you're buying a piece of the network. It's like a digital share of the network, and the value is in the network. So when you own the token, you own a piece of the network, you own a piece of the value. But how do we determine value? The first thing we said is how big is the problem they're tackling? Second, how superior is their solution for the specific problem? Because many digital asset companies, there's many Ponzi schemes, pump and dumps and new copycat companies, as my brother always says, and they have the same solutions that Ripple has. But the key is who does it better. Okay, who's more superior for that specific solution problem. And in this case, for moving value specifically, it's XRP and XLM. XLM is stellar. Okay. The other point we look at and other criteria is primarily who is behind
I have to take notes because it's a lot of info you're telling me. It's amazing. Okay.
Well, it's the truth. You have to look at it differently because it's not a company or a stock we're looking at. We're looking at utility. So how do you measure that? You know, it's very different. It's almost difficult to quantify because there's no set clear rules and playbook for measuring value or measuring intrinsic value in this, because this is a new asset class. It's never existed before except for the past 10 years, which was when Bitcoin was launched in 2009. So back to the criteria, how big is the problem they're tackling? How superior is their technology? And who is behind Ripple and their product or the solution? This comes down to following the money. And ultimately, if you look at history, you'll see that always the big money behind the scenes will fund and continue to fund and funding the chosen ones, the winners that are going to help or assist in whatever agenda it is. They did this in the internet days, 1990s to 2000s. Who funded Facebook? DARPA. It's public information. Google also. That is basically the intelligence agencies. They gave a lot of funding to Facebook and Google. This is public information, not conspiracy, facts. You can verify it. So, digital asset companies,
DARPA is the name?
DARPA, yes,
Okay.
and various intelligence agencies, including the NSA. Now, interestingly, we are living through a similar time to the 1990s and 2000s, because back then we had an industrial revolution, all this new technology emerging from out of nowhere, and this was the internet of this was a period when it was revolutionizing the way information moves. Information, sending pictures, sending messages, emails. This changed. That was an industrial revolution, and we from that emerged internet and tech companies that we see that dominate the market today. And it's a monopoly. You have Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, these big tech companies. But today, it's a very similar period, but yet different, because we have now we're living through an industrial revolution, but with cryptocurrency, with blockchain technology, with 5G, with artificial intelligence, and with robotics, all converging at the same time. We have never had this in history before. Now, the industrial revolution taking place now, again, the crypto and blockchain part of it, this is revolutionizing the way value moves. The internet was revolutionizing the way information moves. So what blockchain and crypto companies are doing now is they are changing the way money and value moves. Now, value does not only mean money, it can mean debt, because that's value. It can mean equities. It can mean any form of value. And they are revolutionizing the way that moves. But ultimately, people have to understand who funded Ripple, who funded these big companies. Because is there opportunity if you participate early? Absolutely. But you need to be aware of what you're investing in as well, because the opportunity is there. The key is just getting in early, positioning yourself, and protecting the ownership of your assets, whatever it is. It's more sensitive now because it's all digital. It's not like buying a piece of gold and you hide it in the backyard. That's easy to hide, to protect. This is digital. So it's very different. But back to what I was saying, the criteria, one of the elements is who's behind the company or the technology. Who's funding it? Who is behind them? The big money. Because
And
the
who
big money, they always win, okay? They choose players long in advance. More than years, decades sometimes. But in this case, with Ripple, more than a decade ago. And this is very deep, but we can get into it. For example, I follow the money, and we did this many years ago before we chose Ripple and XRP specifically as an investment. There's more list of criteria, but this is one of them. We followed the money to see who's behind them, who funded them, have they been expanding, have they been growing, are they really conquering while other companies are stalling, you know? And interestingly, one of the big venture capital firms called Andreessen Horowitz was one of the funders in Ripple. So who is Andreessen Horowitz? You always have to question who are these people putting the big money behind these entities. This is where the spider web comes in. You need to connect the dots. At the end of the day, it's not always about what you buy, but also when you buy. Because you can buy the best technology, the best stocks, the best companies, but if you buy at the top, overpriced, you're setting yourself up for failure. So, more importantly than what you buy, it's when you buy. Because if you bought Dogecoin and Pepe Coin, zero fundamentals. If you bought early enough, you're a millionaire today because you bought early. And that's the key with these companies and these technologies is to balance strong utility and fundamentals with cheap price because you always want to buy cheap. You want to pay cheap for quality. You don't want to overpay for quality. And that's what we've identified with XRP and other tokens that they have long-term growth potential, phenomenal utility, superior utility. And ultimately, their price is undervalued at a current given time. So, back to the money behind Ripple, Andreessen Horowitz is a big venture capital firm. And what they do is venture capitalists, and also known as VCs, they invest in multiple companies and startups. Okay. Maybe 9 or 8 out of them fail, 2 of them succeed. This is the game. And the idea is to invest in multiple startups. Most of them fail, and a few of them win because it's a numbers game. The more attempts you make, eventually one will win, or 2 or 3. It's a numbers game, like anything in life.
Yeah.
And that concept is the same concept applied for VCs investing in startups, and Ripple was one of them. But if you look at who is Andreessen Horowitz, they have contracts with the CIA, defense contractors, NSA. No, I'm serious.
Wow.
And big black budget companies. Okay. So that's Andreessen Horowitz, one of the early funders of Ripple. Who's another funder? The list goes on. Some we know, some we don't. Okay.
Who else?
But
Who else?
yeah, Google Ventures, another one.
No, I didn't hear
Bitcoin,
that.
yes, Google Ventures also funded Ripple. Another one is the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund. This company is all about Bitcoin, by the way, but they funded Ripple in the early days. So it shows a conflict of interest or a deception. You got to use your logic to see between the lines, you know? Anyway, very interesting. But we look for all these criterias. Hopefully, everything lines up correctly. And as long as the price is undervalued in relation to the growth trend, plus the fundamentals are there, everything we just discussed, that tells us okay, the probability of our investment growing is a very good high odds in our favor. And that's how you have to look at investing in anything, but especially cryptocurrencies, because most importantly, as I said, it's not always about what you buy, but when you buy. And for the longest period, XRP has been very undervalued and suppressed in price because the utility is there. What are its superior capabilities for moving money? So the way XRP comes into the equation is like this. In the world of finance and banking and cross-border payments globally, the way the market and the system works is you have one financial institution, you have another financial institution, and when this institution A sends money to institution B, you probably have maybe 3, 4, or 5 middlemen. And what they do is they pre-fund the account and they use systems like Swift. It's a messaging system to tell the other bank, hey, bank A is sending you money. So what they do is they pre-fund the bank account. And that's why XRP removes the middleman. And the problem is the middlemen, they hold trillions and billions of dollars in money. And these are called, it's correspondent banking, but this is called pre-funded Nostro Vostro accounts. They're Nostro Vostro accounts, and they hold all this pre-funded capital that's just sitting there, dormant, doing nothing, only sitting there to pre-fund different accounts when money comes through. And XRP completely eliminates the need for these entities and middlemen, intermediaries. So what that means is, on a global scale, if XRP continues in the route they're going, they could eventually eliminate these middlemen, and this will free up capital, all this money, approximately 27, 28 trillion dollars. This will be free back into the economy because you don't need the middleman anymore. Now, if you want to send pesos from Mexico to America, US dollars, instead of you waiting 3 to 5 days, like if you send money from Mexico to America or to India, anywhere in the world, this is cross-border payments, and it uses a Swift messaging system, and it's very slow. So that's why when you send money, it takes 3 to 5 days sometimes. Also, there's between 3 and 6% on the high end, 6% failure rate. And on top of that, the transaction fees are very high. I don't know if many of your audience have sent money overseas before, but I have many times, and the fees are high. It's expensive, it's slow, and then finally, the recipient receives the money a few days later. But on top of that, you have weekdays and then weekends, and you have business days. And this can interfere because at the same time, you have the exchange markets for currency exchange. So there's a lot of friction when you send money because of the delay.
And it's
But when
costly.
you
It's
remove
very costly.
costly, yes, and when you remove all of this, now you can use XRP as a bridge currency because you send the pesos, it will move through the financial system in XRP, and then it will be received in the currency it's going to, so fiat dollars.
Let me
So
tell you
this is
something.
instant and
When
cheap. Mhm.
when you do a wire transfer, it's what you do actually. It costs
Yes.
over $20 or $30, and if you're sending $200, it's a lot.
Mhm.
It's really expensive at that time. So I did this. I used blockchain last month, and when I had to send some money to Miami, I sent $200 in USDT, and it was immediately without any
Yes.
problem in the transference, and no transfer cost and fees, and nothing else. It was really cheap.
Exactly. Yes. I've done the same with my father. He lives in Saudi Arabia. So I've done the same thing. So I can understand exactly um, the experience. Um, but yes, that's the case. XRP completely removes the need for these middlemen. Basically, it's fast, it's cheap, it costs fractions of a penny to move big amounts, and it's instant liquidity. So it's instantly sent and instantly received. So it's evolutionizing traditional finance completely, and it's disrupting the financial system and the banking system, but there's also the other side to this. Was this always the plan for a very long time? Because they know every currency system comes to an end at some point. Because historically, every system, whether it's a currency, whether it's an empire, whether it's um, economy, they go through cycles. And eventually, everything has to fall so that they could rebuild a new system in place. So, with this transition we're seeing with crypto, blockchain technology, CBDCs, stable coins, this reset that we're seeing and we're living through now, it has not fully taken effect. We're living through it now. But this reset has historically happened many times in history. Currencies have had resets, economies, empires, but every reset, currency reset that has happened in the past has been because of unsustainable debt, rising debt levels, and economic imbalance and high inflation. Ultimately, these are the factors that have historically led to currency and monetary resets. And right now, we are seeing the same signals flashing red in front of us. And we're getting close to that time. So then you have to understand that's why blockchain technology is here. It's not some magical guy living under a tree created it at the right time. I don't think Satoshi was an economist. I don't think he was a banker, because everything is too coincidental, the timing, which is another conversation we could get into if you want. But the timing is mathematically impossible to be coincidence. That all these solutions that revolutionize the monetary system, the economy, are here now. Right at the same time, when the dollar is facing unresolved issues as a world reserve currency, and right at the same time, when inflation and the currency debasement level is at the highest it's ever been in history. Not inflation, the rate of prices rising, the currency debasement. How much does your fiat buy you today versus 10 years ago? That's currency debasement. The value of your buying power decreasing. And right now, we're seeing the signs that we're getting closer to the end of this monetary system cycle. We're not there yet, but we're living towards the end, most definitely. Mhm.
Do you believe this is a transformation that we're going to live in the next decade or something like that? Or it's something that how long will it take to see that blockchain is adopted globally?
To be honest with you, I have my theory, but it's very difficult to give an answer uh, because there's too many unknowns. You know, um, it could go on for a very long time. It could be a very gradual process because the whole system we live in now, globally, it's a debt-based system.
Yeah.
So it's based on the debt. So in order to keep the system alive since 2009, what do? They just keep creating debt and creating currency units into the system. Whether they do it with the Treasury Department, physical dollars, or they just put it in a computer, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's credit creation, debt creation, and the result is the same thing. It means your money buys you less because they diluted the currency by adding more of it, and asset prices go up because they cost more of this to buy it, and grocery prices go up, rent goes up, everything goes up in price because it costs more of these fiat currencies because of their policies of debt creation. So, to answer the question whether it's going to happen next year, 5 years, maybe it's going to be a long process, nobody really knows because they can kick the can down the road by creating more debt. And that's what they're going to do this year. And this can keep buying time but eventually something will break.
And do you think that buying time has been part of the SEC versus Ripple case? Buying this time and prolonging some of these issues, and I don't know how the case was absurd at the beginning, and it had at the end it finished, and it still hasn't finished. They still prolong it and move it on in time. I don't know.
Yes,
What
it's
do you think about it?
in my opinion, I think the whole SEC case was this is my opinion. Okay. I think it was just theater for the most part. I think there was some interest of conflict with some entities behind the scenes. I don't know who, we don't know who. Um, but the delay tactic they used, they exhausted themselves. And it's very clear it was just to buy time because it lined up perfectly with the crash of the previous bull run, which gave a lot of these insiders huge opportunity because they had time to accumulate. And what we saw is large accumulation when you look at the on chain metrics of whales, big players buying a lot of XRP during that crash of the lawsuit. And accumulation has been going on for a while. I'm not talking about Mr. Joe buying $50. I'm talking about billions of dollars accumulating. This happened right after the lawsuit. And this is normal. I already knew this because anytime they crash the markets, whether it's an inside job or it's legit, they always put a negative narrative story so that people can make sense. Oh, that crashed, that happened because of that. Makes sense. It's to justify it. But the point is, during that time, huge accumulation was taking place of XRP. And until today, you have all this SEC lawsuit going on with civil stuff. Like, I don't even pay attention to it. I'm
Okay.
looking at the fundamentals and how undervalued is this asset? Where is it going to go? When I invest in something, I'm not looking at the price today because the price is a distraction. I'm looking at what's the price going to be in the next 5, 10 years. And so the lawsuit, in my opinion, I think was to buy time, but not for the reasons we think. I think a lot of people think the lawsuit was to, to work to create solutions for we the people and to take over the financial system and all this. I'm not buying this nonsense. Look, my background is banking and finance, and I've seen how cold these people's minds can be, and they have no best interest of the people. Okay, everything they do is deliberately designed to enrich themselves, their kids, their families, and most importantly, their shareholders. So when they crash XRP, which lined up perfectly with the whole lawsuit thing, and the rest of the market also crashed too. So, was that really a coincidence? The timing they chose to sue them when the rest of the crypto market crashed? No, that was the end of the bull market. And bull markets and crypto markets move in cycles every 4 years, and then they crash. Why do they move every 4 years? Because crypto is driven by the debt refinance cycle, which happens every 4 years. So it goes much deeper than people think. I think the lawsuit was a perfect narrative. And sure, again, there's maybe some conflict there of interest with different entities. But at the end of the day, innovation innovates and gets adopted at some point. Lawsuits took place even with Tesla, with Google, Uber got a lawsuit. See, all the technologies and companies that disrupt different sectors of the economy, they all get a lawsuit because eventually the whole point of the lawsuit is so that the SEC can and their puppet masters can control a piece of the technology. For example, if you come out with a patent to give free energy to the world, the SEC will sue you. And ultimately, it's not because they want to get you to pay a fine. It's because they want to control this technology before you disrupt markets. That's really it. The SEC is the Securities Exchange Commission. If you really want to know who they are and what they are and why they were set up, they are basically mafia enforcers for the big family. That's what the SEC is.
Okay.
So, yes.
Wow. No. That's amazing what you're telling us.
Well, it's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No. It's. I believe everyone that is watching today is getting like ah like jaw dropping and watching you like wow everything that you're telling us.
I feel, Bernie, I've been talking too much. You go ahead.
No,
This
no,
should
no.
be a conversation here.
This is no. I'm taking notes. This is a class. This is a master class. I have. This is
Oh,
an
you know
opportunity
more
for
than
people.
you think you
Uh,
know. I know you
I
do.
know a lot. I believe I know a lot, but this is an opportunity to learn, and this is an opportunity for everyone in my channel, in my community, in Latin America, in Spain that are watching us, that to take advantage of all this knowledge. And anytime that they want, they can reach you out at Black Swan Capitalist. I'm gonna post the link in the description so everyone can reach you out and know more if they want a specific call or anything. All the information is there.
I
So
really appreciate it, Bernie. Thank you.
and just give us a like here in my channel and give a like in Vandell channel when you get it there. Also, I wanted to know where do you think is XRP is getting and is if it's getting higher in market value in market capitalization than Bitcoin at some time.
So I think XRP is on a long-term upward trend.
Okay.
So before 2017, XRP was trading below a penny, below
Mhm.
1 cent. Just a few months ago, and we reached new all-time high. We went to $3, I think, and 40 cents. Now
Okay.
we came down a little. This is normal. It's called consolidation. It's because when we went high, insiders, um, big retail investors, they take profits. Okay. So you see a huge decline and then volatility up and down, sideways. This is normal. It's called price action and volatility. And that's it. But when you look at the long term trend, when you zoom out, we're only going up. And the reason I believe that we are going to continue to go up, even if we have another crash or correction, long term, we're only going higher. The reason is because, simply put, price is determined by supply and demand. Economics 101. XRP has a limited supply, 100 billion. Superior use case, superior utility, growing market demand. Where do you think the price is going to go? Eventually, as institutional adoption comes in, as more utility becomes adopted globally, institutions that want XRP so they can use it for speed, efficiency, cheap payments, moving value quick, instantly, liquidity. These institutions will buy XRP and they will never sell it back on the market. Why will they not sell it back on the market? Because it has utility.
They're gonna
They're
keep it
not going to
for
buy it to
themselves.
trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to buy it to use. So eventually, this will create a ripple effect. So all institutions will acquire Ripple to use it, and the supply is capped 100 billion. So over time, the price will only increase because more transactions, more inflow will be flowing through the network of the XRP ledger. As more institutions use it, this creates a supply shock. And as more institutions actually use XRP for moving value, this creates more inflows and liquidity on the network, which eventually drives up the price. But in addition to that, XRP is a deflationary asset. So anytime transactions are made, it actually burns XRP from the network. So every aspect of it is deflationary, which means based on supply and demand, I only see it going up. How high? We don't know. We're still very early. But of
Do-
course, if you bought years ago, you'd be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. You go. I'm gonna ask you, but as soon as you end, do you think, or do you think XRP can get to $1,000?
In the future,
That's
yes. Yeah,
in a
I do.
future, far
Yeah,
away,
I
or
do. Well,
okay.
that's the thing. It's very difficult. It depends how fast the rate of adoption takes place. That's all it depends on. Because it's interesting because people say, um, oh, it could happen next year. It's going to happen this bull run. First of all, bull run is liquidity cycles, has nothing to do with utility. So there's no way utility will happen during a bull run. Utility is utility. Bull run is liquidity cycles driven by money coming in the crypto market, pumping the price, and then leaving the crypto market. So there's a very distinct distinction between utility and liquidity bull runs, okay, which is the 4-year cycle. Utility, eventually, as it continues to increase and as the points I listed manifest, so institutions buying it, institutions using it on as a medium, as a bridge currency, this will eventually drive up the price, and that intrinsic value will reflect in the price. So to answer your question, whether it will happen, sooner or later, $1,000 or even more or less, it really depends how fast those things happen and play out. And it really depends even more how much value is being used or flowing on the network, moving value through XRP. Because right now, they're using it already. There is utility, but it's not on a global scale. And the inflows of value moving on the XRP ledger is not enough to drive the price up significantly at the moment. It will
Yeah.
change, I think, in the future once we have global institutional adoption. But when that happens, you will see the price rise because it's supply and demand. But for specific numbers like $1,500, personally, I don't think that's going to happen this cycle. Okay. This cycle, meaning this year, this bull
Yeah.
run cycle. Um, but if it does, phenomenal. That's not something you can plan for. And that's why when I invest in crypto assets, for San and I, at our firm, what we do is we swing trade, but we have long positions, long term and medium positions, medium term. Our medium term position is the 4-year cycle. We buy in the bear market when nobody's interested, when prices are cheap, and we sell at the peak or near the peak of the bull cycle and altcoin season. And we have another portion of our portfolio that's long term for the utility because the bull run cycles a very predictable, repetitive pattern that happens because of the macroeconomic factors: liquidity, interest rates, weakening of the US dollar, geopolitics. That's what drives the bull run. Global M2 money supply increasing, crypto goes up. Global M2 money supply contracting, eventually crypto crashes. That drives the bull market. But utility, you can't plan for that. You just have to be in.
How
Because
do
it
you
could happen
decide?
in 10 years. It could
Sorry.
happen in 20 years. I'm sorry. Maybe it could
No.
happen tomorrow. We don't
How
know.
do you decide to get in? To decide the price to for a long term investment? Probably, I don't know. You're watching if it's getting to the bear market to buy more or to DCA. I don't know. How do you do it?
Yes. So, as investors, we're always faced with two risks. The first risk is losing money,
Yeah.
the second risk is losing opportunity. So,
Well,
today, in this environment, we need to ask ourselves, based on the financial environment, the the information we have and our personal financial situation and goals, where do I sit in this risk curb? So from 0 to 100, like a speedometer in a car. 0 to 100, Zero meaning all cash. So you have no crypto investments. 100 meaning you're all in. Now, you never want to be zero and you never want to be 100 all in. You want to find the right balance that fits your goals and your personal situation and the market environment. The whole market environment right now, all the macroeconomic factors are telling me, also geopolitically, now is the time to be in risk on assets and cryptocurrency because crypto is the best risk adjusted reward asset class in the world since 2009, the best performing asset class. So, when do I know when to get in or when not to get in? Well, if you look at it from a long term perspective, crypto is very new. It's only been around since 2009, XRP only since 2014 or 2013. So fairly new compared to stocks,
Yeah.
bonds, traditional assets. So from the S curve, which is the rate of growth or the rate of adoption for crypto, we're very early in the growth stage and that we're in the early stages of adoption. Such a small percentage of the world even knows what XRP is. Go ask your neighbor. They're not going to know what even crypto is. Maybe they'll know Bitcoin, but nobody knows. So not everybody is involved in crypto. And even the people that own crypto or digital assets, they own nothing really because we're so early. It's not on the radar for most people, for the masses. So when do you buy? Well, if you're thinking long term, right now, most digital assets with real utility, real fundamentals, real use case, they are very undervalued. Sure, if you bought in the bear market, which was 2022, early 2023, or even before, sure, you would get a better deal. You'd get more crypto for your money, of course, because you got in earlier. But today, you'll still get a good deal, but you're not going to get a better deal than if you bought before, of course. So the earlier you get in, the better. But from zoomed out perspective, we're still in the very early stages. And in the medium perspective, medium term, which is this cycle, in my opinion, all the signals are telling me, all the macro factors, all the technical data, all the macro data is telling me we are going much higher this year. Okay. This is a risk on environment, and you need to decide how much opportunity are you willing to take on that curve from 0 to 100, because the more opportunity you want, which is available today in crypto, the more risk you're going to take. If you want to be very conservative and defensive, the less risk you take, the less rewards, the less opportunity you're going to have. So you have to look at what is the market environment now. Everything tells me from a long-term perspective, we're very early for adoption, utility, but even the short-term perspective, medium term, we're early still because the central banks are going to print a lot of money. And when they
They,
do that, asset prices go up.
they are printing like hell. They're crazy printing at this moment, and you
And
see
they're
it
going to
in.
step it
I
up. Mhm.
I believe you can see a top in September or October this year, or probably there's a lot of people telling that the top of this bull run is going to be in the first quarter of 2026. There's a
It's
lot of
possible.
people talking. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
I'll
So
tell
I
you
don't
how we
want.
can know. Mhm.
I I don't want to take it longer because or else no one will watch all the video at the end.
Sure, sure.
So I want to ask you a short question. Which crypto are you watching at this moment? I know you like XRP and XLM. Which others do you like, or if you can tell us a little bit, why do you like XLM? Because I'm starting to investigate a little bit about it, and I want to broader get farther than XRP, just to
Sure,
learn
of
a
course.
little bit more about it.
Yes, so the digital assets and cryptos that I invest in, I'm still accumulating till today
Okay.
because we haven't taken the next leg up yet. Um, I'm buying XLM, XDC, Velo, which is Velo Labs,
Yeah.
SHX. SHX is Stronghold, and I'm buying HBAR. HBAR is Hedera Hashgraph. All of these digital assets have long-term growth potential, strong utility, very specific market sectors that they are tackling, and at the same time, the price is right, very cheap, undervalued. XRP is more overvalued in the short term because pretty much everybody's talking about XRP now. We were talking about it 5 years ago, but now everybody's talking about it. So kind of look at other ones as well that are under the radar. Um,
A thing that I believe is interesting about a stronghold is that if you get into the exchanges, you can most of them still don't have it. So it's a
exactly.
big opportunity because they're still not there, and as soon as they get
Exactly.
there, it gets pumped up the price.
This is what happened with XRP. Before XRP was below a penny, um, it made its all-time high close to $4. It was only listed on, I think, one exchange. I think it was just Coinbase. So the key is the earlier you get in, the more upside you have.
So
That's
stronghold,
basically it.
where can you find this stronghold in which exchange? Do you know?
Okay, so SHX, the company is Stronghold. SHX
Yeah.
is on two different networks, but it's the same original token. You can get it on the Binance. No, I'm sorry, on the Ethereum network.
Okay.
And the second place you could get it is where it's built on originally. It's the Stellar network.
Okay. That will
So
be
SHX has interesting ties to
to
Stellar. Okay,
Excellent.
and
Okay.
Velo, the one of the head board of advisors on Velo Labs is Jed McCaleb.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys with Ripple and then went to Stellar and created XLM. So you see, they're all connected. They're not fighting each other or competing. They're targeting different markets. So they're complementing each other in a new evolving financial system that we will see in the future.
I've been reading a lot about XRP and XLM and this relationship between Jed McCaleb, and what I read is that they fought about philosophical differences between both of them, but on the other side you read that they complement and they did it like it's
Yeah,
like
it's
a
all
planned
show.
thing. It's a show.
Yeah, exactly. They gave a narrative to the people. Just give them this so they can read and shut up and have something to talk about to justify what happened.
Yeah.
That's basically it. But they're building big time behind the scenes, and it's
and,
very clear, very
and they're
obvious.
focused on different things, so probably they're on the same
Exactly.
on the same page. So
Same. Yes, definitely.
okay, Vandell, no, I wanted to thank you for your time. It's been amazing to have you in the channel. It's been amazing. It's been a master class. If someone got all the way through here and heard you and probably hear it again and hear it again and again, because it's important to learn more and understand like the all the structure of XRP, the Bitcoin and all the blockchain technology, that how it's evolving and how it's transforming the world. It's building to do a new reset in the world. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. I invite everyone to get to know you in your channels, as well as Versan that already was here in the channel some weeks ago. And I'm really happy to have you here. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Bernie. Hopefully, we could do this again in the future. I'd
We
love to
have to.
speak with you again. Yeah,
We have
but
to.
thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Ok, so have a nice day. Bye. Adiós a todos. Muchas gracias por seguirnos. Por favor, sigan a Vandell. Vandell tiene les voy a dejar en el link, en la descripción, el link de su canal, de toda su información, para que vayan y lo busquen. Es muy, muy interesante lo que sabe esta gente. Vandell y Versan son dos hermanos que trabajan el mundo de las criptomonedas, de blockchain y la consultoría de mil maravillas. Su portafolio es espectacular. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I was just inviting everyone to follow you on your channel.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Really appreciate the support. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Chao, chao.